Okay, so once you do your prime factorization for 12 and 60, let's check really quick. For 12, you should have 2 squared times 3, and then 60, you should have 2 squared times 3 times 5. Notice I am putting the bases in order from least to greatest. Exponents don't matter, you're looking at the order of the bases, least to greatest. And then we're going to move over to greatest common factor. So I have two numbers, 12 and 32. I circled the common factors, and then your greatest common factor is the one that they have in common that's the largest one. This is going to come into play a lot whenever we're factoring monomials, binomials, trinomials. You're going to be looking for greatest common factors throughout each term. Now you're not necessarily also going to just be looking for a number. At some point, variables are going to come into play. So here between 12 and 32, the greatest common factor is 4. There you go. Find the greatest, really quick, just find the greatest common factor between 24 and 60. Pause it and then do that, and then you can play after you pause it. Okay. Your greatest common factor between 24 and 24 and 60 is 12. So if I were to factor something out, factor out the greatest common factor, that would be 12 between those two numbers. Okay, so fair enough, easy. This is all kind of a review. Now we're going to talk about finding greatest common factor of monomials. Just one single terms. I have 3x cubed and I have 6x squared. So I need to find the largest numerical factor, greatest common factor, and then I'm going to look at what do these two terms have in common between the variables. So I'm going to pull out the common things. So if I look at 3x cubed, a factor of 3 is 1 times 3, and ignore my green lines here because I have circled something else down here. So your factors are 1 times 3, and then you have x times x times x. That would be your x cubed. So then if I go to 6, my factors of 6 are 1 times 6, and then 2 times 3. The greatest common numerical factor would be 3, but notice that on the top you have 3 x's and on the bottom you have 2. Together they both share 2 x's. So I can say that the greatest common factor of these monomials would be 3x squared. Because that is a factor that both of these two terms share, they have in common. Okay? So let's try a few of them together. So I want you to find the greatest common factor of 18g squared and then 27g cubed. Pause it, and I'm going to go on. So I'm going to work this out really quick. I have 18g squared, and then I have 27g cubed. So to get 18, my factors, I have 1 goes in 18, 2 goes in 18, 3 does not, 4 does not, 5 does not, 6, excuse me, hold on, 3 goes into 18, got ahead of myself, 3 times 6, and then 2 times 9, and then 1 times 18. Those are your factors of the numbers, and then I'm going to write out my g's. Same thing, I have 2 g's. And now let's go down to 27. Am I always going to break this apart like this each time? No, absolutely not. Just for the notes, we're breaking it apart, laying it all out, and then eventually you'll get really quick at finding those greatest common factors. For 27, we have 1, 3, 9 goes into 27, and then 27, and then we have 3g. So if I find the greatest common factor between the two of them, I see I have 9, and I also have 2 g's that they share, that they have in common. So your greatest common factor between these two monomials would be 9. g squared. Okay? Take a second, write this one down, and pause it as soon as you see it. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's break this down into all of the terms. Hopefully you've already done it, so you're just kind of checking along with me. I have 16a squared and b squared, just b. And then below it I have 9b. So thinking about everything that makes 16 a squared b, I have 1, 2, 4 makes 16, 2 times 8, and 1 times 16. You have 2 a's and then a b. So 9, if I look at it, I have 1, 3, and 9, and then you have b. So if I look at this, what do they have in common? Well, what's the greatest number, numerical? That would be 1. But you'll see me, I'm not going to be writing that down because it doesn't affect the outcome. And then I have in common the b. I don't have any a's over here, so I can't circle any a's. So what do they have in common? They only have a b in common. You can put 1b, but just like having an x, 1x is still the same answer. So b is your greatest common factor between 16a squared b and 9b. Last one, I believe it's the last one. Yep. Last one that we're going to look at together. Same thing, write it down really quick, work it out, and then turn it back on. Okay, so we have negative 64 n squared, and then 24 n to the power 4. So I have negative 64 n squared. What are the factors that make 64? I have 1, 2, 4 goes into 64. Give me a second, I'm thinking it is 24. Just want to check. Yep, 16. So we have 4. 3 does not go into 64 because if I add 6 and 4 up, I don't get a number that's divisible by 3. 5, 6 is not, 7, 8 is divisible by, 64 is divisible by 8. Excuse me. And then we have 16, 32, and 64. Now, let's address that negative. You have a negative 1 there, so we can put that there, because that is going to come up in a few minutes. And then I have 2 n's. Okay, let's go through 24. N to the power of 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. And 4 n's. Whoops, I wrote the 4. There we go. Come on. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to circle what we have in common. The greatest numerical factor that they have in common would be, it looks like to me, would be 8. So I have 8 and 8. And then, let me check real quick. Okay. And then we have 2 n's that they have in common. So, if I ask for the greatest common factor between these two monomials, you can give me the answer of 8 n squared. Okay? Now, for the rest of the class today, you're finishing up practice 8.1b. That is your classwork that we will be going over and checking, and then 8.1c is your homework that counts as your homework points. Come see me if you are stuck and if you have any questions.